Hi, this is Mara Malakowski, and I'm doing my paper on robot ethics, the ethical and social implications for robots. So, roboethics. Roboethics is a branch of applied ethics that looks at how robot behavior will be governed and the level of independent actions that will be allowed. There are three main issues that surround this topic: the ethics of people who create and employ robots, the ethical system embedded into robots, and the ethics of how people treat robots. There are many more questions to address along this line of thinking, including questions relating to the role robots will play, who takes responsibility for their actions, limitations we should set, and the social considerations that will influence certain ethical decisions. It's important to look both at the short-term and long-term effects of robots over time, and that kind of leads into my working thesis, which is a thorough examination of roboethics is needed to understand the ethical implications of employing robots in our society today and in the future. So I started off with creating and employing robots. And the quote from David Wood said, "The bottom line is, robots need to be responsive and resilient. They need to be able to protect themselves and also smoothly transfer control to humans when necessary. Want responsible robots? Start with responsible humans." He's talking about here about the creators' robots, particularly their involvement in coding or responsible behavior or ethical values that are likely to be a reflection of their own. So creating these robots, you really have to have a basis, and so there are these infamous 3 laws, first created by Isaac Asimov in his story Around, that state a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law, and a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. Now, these laws have since been proven pretty faulty through trial and error and in a number of movies, including iRobot, but they do give a good basis for reasoning and thinking. However, it has way too many loopholes to be effective today. Then again, we have the IEE Robotics and Animation Society, which is taking a revision of those base concepts. And their scientists, theorists, and scholars are all working on how humans will interact and what humans will use them for in the future. They deal with all different ethical questions that are rising with the tide of robot development, and they hold workshops, conferences, and meetings, help them create guidelines. One of their main concerns is how fast the field is growing, and they're worried that they won't be able to come up with enough ethical guidelines, rules, and laws to deal with the situations that will occur. Who needs ethics? We all do. Guidelines for robotics are based on the contributions to progress in human society, which basically just means that we have to consider what roles they will play and how that will affect what ethics they have. Ethics are especially needed for robot designers, manufacturers, and users because they can actually control what the robot will do. And in the case of the designers and manufacturers, could have negatively affected their performance. One of the theories I looked at was deontological, which is a normative ethical theory, which says their actions should take into consideration what is right or wrong, not just the results, but what they should do according to the rules and a code that tell them whether something is morally or ethically wrong. Safety is foremost. They have to eliminate the chance that the mechanical systems will accidentally harm humans. So putting in some safety measures and making absolutes like you cannot harm another human being is still a good idea. It just doesn't, it limits too much of other decisions that they should be able to make. Then we have to consider protecting the technology, the robots, from being misused by people. So using them from criminal activities like theft or breaking into a house or kidnapping someone. Having those fail safes in place and having someone double check all this coding, all this work before something is changed. Basically making sure there are no loopholes that someone could use to get control of the robot for their own intent. Then security mechanisms. One of the concerns is with robot systems, they'll have access to all this information, and that if someone could get into it, they could reprogram the robot to take all the passwords and information and give it to someone that is not supposed to have it. So having secure passwords and keys to the programming code is vital to their success. And then I'm delving into their military use, and one of the things looking at is tracing all the units, whether that be drones or other robots, animation, to make sure nothing goes missing or is left unchecked. And then including a black box that shows what actually happened so that there isn't any doubt as to the events and nothing can be misconstrued. Then I was considering the economic impact of hiring robots or employing robots, and really what that would have a negative effect on quite a few people. And this is where I employed the concept of utilitarianism, because while this technology and automation is producing really good results and is cost efficient, it can only be beneficial to a few people in many companies because the majority are probably going to be out of a job and just a few or the elite are going to fully get any benefit from this. And technically, putting robots in place would be ethically wrong under this theory because the majority are losing jobs and only a minority are actually benefiting. Like those unsuited for higher level jobs or uneducated or too poor to get further training are going to be losing their jobs to robots and won't be able to get work, make money to live. In the World Economic Forum, they published a report called The Future of Jobs that predicts that the fourth industrial revolution due to automation will occur by 2020 and is going to affect quite a few people. If you look on this list down here, it says jobs lost, and here the jobs are expected to be lost, and then jobs created, ones that are being created with robots. And then if you calculate that all up, it's 7,165,000 jobs lost, 2,021,000 created, but that still leaves a difference, 5,144,000 jobs lost. So really you can see the impact that employing robots and having robots replace humans is going to have on our economy. So programming that ethical system, going back to that commercial toy robot now, he's fully programmable, but he has to face a lot of ethical dilemmas we have to figure out how to answer. Reminding people to take their medicine. What if the patient refuses to take it? What course of action should the robot take? There needs to be some sort of appropriate procedure in place. Call the medical care provider. Receive further instructions. And then if there still can't come a compromise between the robot and the human, maybe human intervention is needed. That is that indefinable factor that they might not be able to answer with some coding systems. And if taking the medicine is a matter of life and death, it's better for a human to violate what you might think to be your personal liberties than to have a machine or a robot do it. And one of the examples that I talked about was an unethical robotic trading system where the robot actually sent out fake high oil prices. So then this automated program switches from oil to other polluted chemicals in order to avoid a price increase in electricity. But unfortunately, the plant can't handle the overload because it's not meant to handle these chemicals over a long period of time. The plant explodes and causes a power outage. Now, this is somewhere where it could have been easily avoided if there was some kind of barrier preventing this kind of tampering with the system. So then looking at those two algorithms again, learning algorithms having no control of new ethical rules, you give them a basis and do simulations and programs for the robot to figure out its own ethical standards that match up with our culture and our expectations. And that's kind of where we're going right now with artificial intelligence concerns. And then we have explicitly formulated rules where the rules are clearly stated one by one and they're put in order of what's most important to least important, but having absolutes in place for the robot system, which is what we mostly have right now in factories and such. So looking at perception and treatment of robots, science fiction media really has had an influence on this. Movies and shows showing all these horrible things that can go wrong has made us have a fear of humanoid robots. For example, iRobot, Westworld, The Matrix, Ex Mechanica. There are a lot of examples in modern culture that show how it could go terribly, terribly wrong. So if you're worried about robots, so are a lot of other people, including a couple of these more famous people. Humans, limited by slow biological evolution, couldn't compete and would be superseded by AI. Stephen Hawking. AI is our biggest existential threat. Elon Musk. I am in the camp that is concerned about superintelligence. Bill Gates. These are all fairly intelligent and famous people that are very concerned about where we're going to go with artificial intelligence, and that certainly doesn't help their case. Another example of this fear is that the US military currently uses very visibly drones and other robotic systems to kill people in other nations, and really the question is what's to stop them from doing that in the United States. And so everyone has a negative connotation associated with any kind of robot that you see in a normal newscast or factory for that matter. So as I said before, a lot of people think of robots as artificially intelligent humanoid robots. But there are a lot of different kinds of robots, and they've kind of been developing from first we had industrial robots, and they've been around for years in manufacturing, and they're programmed by a human and instructor and coded to do specific jobs, and usually it's just a robotic arm that makes packaging or labeling more efficient and faster. Then we moved into service robots, and they can operate semi or fully autonomously to perform tasks. And while they're not used in industrial animation, they are used in other areas such as internal transportation hospitals to do lawn mowing or vacuum cleaning, like those Rombas that are circular and clean up your floor and have sensors and detecting such as that. And now we're really moving into that artificial intelligence that people are more afraid of, and they're considered to be the most dangerous threat because the software allows their technology to adapt. Their systems can use sense, reason, and act with autonomy, whether that be to the benefit of humankind or not, is kind of the debate I'm having in my paper. Certainly, there's a lot of concerns and fear surrounding this, but that doesn't necessarily downfall the benefits. It's just reminding people that we really need to take in consideration our intentions and to really think about each step before we implement it into our robots. Okay, so that's all I have for now. I'm not quite finished with my paper, but I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.